Welcome to the 365 Message Show. Today, we're going to be talking about new default notifications for new Teams users, pinning chats, side by side reporter stuff, views rather, reporter review modes, presenter modes. And lastly, the title or headline for today is going to be about the self service purchasing capabilities for Windows 365. Daniel, where are you coming to us from today?
I am live from Chicago. I am here this week for the SP Fest and Teams Fest here in Chicago. And I am and very excited about being here, being able to interact with attendees and fellow presenters and really get my community on, as it were. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. So
Yeah, well, it's good to hear too that some of these events are picking up. We know that the numbers, I guess, will still be a little low as people are just cautiously coming out and going along to bigger events and community things. But good on you, Daniel, for supporting the community and getting in there to start things off again.
yeah, well, thank you very much. I think, it's not like the community has died or anything. We've just been a whole lot of virtual here the past, year and a half or so. But yeah, it just feels good to get back. So, one of those messages was really easy for you to say in the intro there. So that'll be interesting to talk about this week. But I'm actually really excited in a not good way, but I'm really excited about this first message that we're going to talk about
Okay.
with the announcement that let's do the title, of course, announcing self-service purchase capabilities for Windows 365 MC 271483. If this sounds familiar, it should. We've talked about this before with other products, most notably the Power Platform. But this is a whole new deal. This is with Windows 365. So if you've been paying attention to what was announced at the partner conference, Microsoft's partner conference, they talked about this new Windows 365 concept and allowing you to utilize the service. And I think it says in the message announced July 14th. So what this is going to, in similar fashion, allow users to be able to purchase a license for Windows 365 themselves. Windows 365 Enterprise for organizations, you can manage this, of course, at smaller organizations. There's a reason why they're doing this, and because I think there's two reasons why they're doing this. One, frankly, is licensing. They want more people to purchase licenses. It shouldn't surprise you. But the other is there's an actual need that they've heard of people wanting to be able to do this and not have to rely on the business to enable them to get the job done. And we now, I won't rehash all of those topics that we've discussed, Daryl, before about how this can cause issues with billing and issues with reimbursement. And, I won't talk about all of that. But what I do want to talk about is really in the aspect around the M365 business. I want to make a point, because we have business and enterprise. Enterprise is those E licenses, E1, E3, E5, or those business Microsoft 365 business licenses, which are really for smaller organizations. Any user is just basically going to be able to go out to the site and purchase and license and start using it. And so this is rolling out. I think we had a date on here. It's August 15th. And that's when, by then, you really need to, as an administrator, be thinking about, do you want this to happen or not? And if you do not, then how should you manage taking control of this? And it is, of course, if you want to prevent this, it's via PowerShell. And there's details there on how to use the PowerShell. They allow self-service purchase. So you can turn it off if you'd like, but just read up on it. I do like, Daryl, what you do need to prepare for this. They say nothing is required. No action is required unless you want to prevent it, of course. But what do you think about this? You know, we've got this wonderful cloud that enables us to do work, and now the cloud is enabling us to buy it, basically. What do you think? I mean, we've talked about self-service purchasing before, but what do you think about Windows
Well,
in the cloud for
this is a
this?
mixed bundle here for me. Like, I totally agree that a service like this, where you can get a virtual machine, because that's what it is, a virtual machine of Windows, and it's going to be your virtual desktop, and you can sign into it from whatever device. And it means maybe you have an old crusty machine back home that you've been thinking about upgrading for a while, but you could just use it as a way to get through to this great, fancy, fully kitted virtual machine. So that's nice, that's good. And they talked about a lot of benefits of being able to go directly from this virtual machine to a really fast internet connection and all that sort of stuff. But what I find interesting about this message is self-service purchase for capabilities for Windows 365. Let's say I work for either an organization that uses M365 Business or M365 Enterprise. Why would I purchase a virtual machine for something that is a work tool? Unless I'm using the company credit card, and in that case, why don't they just do it for themselves? There's also a bunch of things you have to get in place to make this possible. The enterprise side of things, you've got to have Microsoft Endpoint Manager, and you've got to domain join this Windows 365 machine. You've got to have an endpoint to connect to your local Active Directory. Apparently, it doesn't work with Azure Active Directory quite yet. There's a few things that are still working out. So that's my thinking. I mean, the concept is great, but again, self-service, self-provisioning for self-service purchasing. That's the key point here. If I could
Right.
just provision it and it would charge my organization, or it's from a pool of licenses, all good. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting I think it'll be interesting to see how this goes and where it goes, because this is not the end of it, right? Where it goes, how it actually is used with this self-service purchasing. So anyway, let's switch gears, if that's okay, and talk a little bit about registration for view-only attendees.
yeah, let me find. There we go. Here it is. Registration for view-only attendees. That is MC 271632. Look, to be honest, Daniel, I haven't looked too closely at this, and I'll tell you why. It's tiny. Look at that. There's a message there that I can scroll and nothing happens on the screen. Sorry. View-only attendees are now able to register for your webinars as normal attendee would. Previously, view-only attendees did not have registration support. So if you wanted to just attend a webinar and sit there and consume it, then there was no registration required. But yeah, that will now be a thing. You can register for the webinar and just watch. So it's good for the organizers. They can gather a bit more information.
Yes.
They can see how many people are attending and that. I don't know why they didn't launch with this and they just hold off and wait till they had that full capability, because that's probably the most common way that if you're going
Well,
public. Yeah.
well, that's the point. Remember when we talked about this, and when we talked about this initially,
Yeah.
this concept, this functionality was for internal webinars.
Yeah.
So view only is a secondary concern, because internal webinars, you don't really care that much who registered. Like you're not grabbing
Mm.
what company do you work for? How many employees do you have? You don't do that kind of registration form for internal people. But, if you're going to be using this for external, then knowing how many people are showing up, not just people who, are going to be presenters or, fully interactive, you want those view only
Mm-hmm.
registrations. So you're
Yeah,
right. This is a very small message, but I think for those that are looking for webinar, to use that functionality are going to like this.
definitely. Yep. So it's going to be rolling out complete mid to late August, which is actually a common theme with some of the
Yeah.
updated messages we're going to talk about later.
We'll talk about that. Yes, we
Yeah,
will.
we will. And up next, we have Outlook on the Web, something.
Yes, Outlook on the web, Project Mocha, migrating to Outlook board view, MC271629. When we talked about this, the public preview of this, I think we even had a conversation around, um, I'm sorry, when we talked about the boards in Outlook, um, it was like, wait, doesn't this look like Project Mocha? Like what? And we had that conversation
Hmm.
and we were spot on. So what's going to happen? Project Mocha was a public preview, pretty much the same functionality. And so what this announcement is just making sure that that it's going away. Project Mocha is going to go away, and they're going to migrate that content into the Outlook calendar board view. So you'll be able to go on the board views and see the board, and there will be a Project Alpha. It looks like a project. No, not Project Alpha. That's the example there. I was like, but the boards will be migrated for you, um, so you don't really have to do anything for this. And this will be rolling out late July, so nowish, within the next few days. So just know how to get around using that model switcher, so that you'll be able to switch around onto that.
Hmm. I had a quick look to see if it was available for me. Um, yeah, it's there in Outlook on the web, and to me, it wasn't an obvious place. I went looking from my inbox down to a few folders and maybe looking for an area where it said boards, but you need to
Mm-hmm.
go into calendar and
Right.
change to the board view, and then you'll be able to create a board and set it all out. And it is about being a calendar based thing initially, isn't it?
It is, but I can see other applications. And so I think for people who know about this functionality and want to use it in a different way, will find that confusing of where it's located.
Mm.
But that's the intent right now. But I do feel like there's going to be other ways of using this, and not just calendar focused.
Well, here's one way that I think I've heard it framed up. You know, the Outlook Today view, which we barely use now, but I remember back in sort of early 2000s, it was a buzz. It was like, wow, I could get my Outlook to start up and it would show my calendar and the appointments I've got, my tasks, and
Mhm.
you'd start there, and that's kind of what this is, but you've got a lot more control over it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
All right. So up next, let's go back to Teams
Mm-hmm.
and talk about notifications.
Yeah. I thought I had it here. Where is it? Ah, haha, found it. New default native notification settings for Teams users, MC271919. Well, this is interesting, right? You have been able to, in recent times, change Microsoft Teams so that it will use your native OS notifications. I say that because it's not just Windows; it also works on Mac OS. And this, the notifications you get for Teams, if there's a chat that kind of pops up, or maybe the Teams calendar is trying to tell you, just like Outlook is, that you've got an appointment coming, all those sorts of things, you can have those notifications come together with all your other OS notifications. For Windows, it's the Action Center. For Mac, it's whatever they call it. The notifications area? I don't know. But this message is about changing the default to be your OS notification center for new Teams users. If you have joined an organization and you've just been given your account and you're signed up as a new Teams user, yes, that's you. Even though you might have used Teams in your old workplace, you're still considered a new Teams user. Then this default behavior will be that the notifications will come into your OS notification center. Now, there are some benefits to this. You have some unified control over how that notification appears, namely for Windows, that it actually respects your focus assist mode, which is, one of those things. If you set it in Windows and Teams, if you're using Teams native mode, it says, I don't care. I'm going to still give you that notification because you need to change your notification settings in Teams. So it's good to have it all set there in one central place. Now, I was going to try and bring it up, but I'm not really ready to do so. That's a bit of poor preparation, but there are some things that you do want to look at if you are going to turn this on, or if you are just going to stick with the default. That particularly for Windows, I don't know what it looks like in Mac, but first of all, is it turned on? If it's turned on, then it means that your Teams notifications are going to be there in the Action Center. Do you want to show notifications or show as banners, which are those little windows that will pop up in the bottom right-hand corner, like that one there in the animation? Or are you going to see a sort of a card in the Action Center? And you can set how many cards or notifications you'll see, like a maximum of 3, or you can bump that up and down. And you have control over how much priority you want to give it, whether it's normal, high, or top. So you can change those. So it might be a good time that if you're going to have a look at those settings, it's not just enough to turn on using native notifications in Teams to start using your OS, but also check those other things out. Lastly, for existing Teams users, if you have been using Teams already, this is only going to affect those who are brand new to using Teams in an organization. If you're existing, your settings are not going to be changed to using the native OS notification center.
I was gonna ask about that. Because the note in this is existing users who. It doesn't say existing users will not be affected. It says existing users who have already set their default notification settings will not be affected. So why that language, you think?
Yeah,
in the message.
I hear, and I had the same thought. If I'm going to get all legalistic about it, maybe if you have just not touched these settings at all, and it's using the Teams notification settings by default, and you haven't purposefully chosen anything else, does this mean that it will change to the Windows or Mac notification settings? Don't know.
I don't know either, and I feel like the reason why they're doing this is so many people have changed it, because it's frankly pretty annoying when you really want to use Windows settings to understand when you shouldn't get notifications. And Teams is like, hello, here's a notification.
Yeah.
Like, no, leave me alone, Teams. Hello, here's another notification.
Yep.
No, stop.
There's another layer, isn't it, to managing those, and whether you turn them on or off, and which location and where. It's not going to change where you need to set up how your notifications behave. You'll still need to go into Teams and say, I want a notification for when someone posts a new conversation in a channel that I'm interested in. But whether it pops up on your machine or not is where you're controlling. But that's enough of that. We talked about that for ages. It's going to be arriving late August and early September, and it affects new users of Teams. But good to talk about notifications.
Let's put a pin in that.
Let's put a pin in that. Hey,
next message.
Next message. Pins and needles to you, man. Pins and needles to you.
That's why I said it. Pin a chat message. MC272167. This is, as a user, this notification is telling us, as a user, I will be able to pin a specific message in and have that show up at the top, have it and with that quick access to that message. And anyone will be able to. And that's a little bit of a rub for me. That and only one can be pinned at a time. So that is but that message, that one pin will be at the top of the chat. But it can be switched out. So anybody in the chat can, say, oh no, let's pin this one. This rollout begin mid-August and hopefully will be done by late August, if everything in August actually happens. August is a big month. They're expecting it for GCC, for those in the government cloud, in late August with late September rollout completion. So this is kind of it's one of those. It's big enough for us to talk about because it's a brand new functionality, and it's something similar that other products have, where you can one that starts with S and ends in LAC. We can say it. Slack has the capability of pinning messages, multiple messages actually, and in channels actually, and in chats. So it's good to see teams catching up here, but there's a little bit of this I don't like. What do you think, Daryl?
Well, I've heard some say that, oh, look, it's pinned messages that are actually pinned. And I looked at this fresh again recently because you can pin messages today, but you have to go through the information panel and scroll to the bottom of that to find that pinned message. So at least we're seeing them in the place that we're actually working. Pinned as a bar at the top of our conversations for a channel. But yeah, I agree. Like if anyone can do it and there's only room for one, it does say who. I think the best example I've seen of this was when I was looking again at the, it was some stuff around that future of work, recent video in June where it was showing about Fluid and chat and pinning things and the bar along the top. But yeah, I think we do need to have this capability to pin a message, which is important. But we'll need multiple ones, and we'll probably want some moderation around who can.
Well, and let me ask you this, and this I don't want to make this more complicated than it is, but what do you call a chat in Teams? What do you call a chat?
Well, when I think of chat, most of the time it's working in the chat app. But I know, and so there's conversations you can have in the chat app versus the Teams channel conversations.
That's what I'm getting at, is this says chat. So and we don't have any other information. I don't have any insider information. I haven't asked my sources, but it seems like to me this is only for chat, like one-on-one or group chat or whatever. This is not in channels.
You might be right.
So, when I read this, and again, this is all we got to work on. That's what I say, and that's what I see. I'm sorry, when I read this, and that's where I was coming from. I like this, but we got to get more. Being able to pin it in a chat's great, but I think really where it brings value is when there's a lot of people, especially when there's people coming into the chat, into the conversation that haven't been around and need to have reference of important information. So we need this in channels, and we need multiples so that you can pin a message of what's the purpose of this channel and what are we working on, or what's a target, or whatever. That's what I'm thinking.
I've got another use for that. What's the purpose of this channel? I've always thought that would be good as a SharePoint page pinned as a tab.
Yep.
Lastly, for our standard messages, we have another one that probably gets a lot of presenters excited, people who are presenting a lot within online meetings and in Microsoft Teams. the new side-by-side and reporter presenter modes with desktop and Windows sharing. I saw you chuckling there, Daniel. Daryl's having a problem saying stuff today. MC272447. We did get an early look at this in the back of house with MVP, and we're able to give a bit of feedback. So it's interesting to see as it arrives now. We can start talking about it. The side-by-side view, as you're starting to see on screen, is when you have your content as, I would call it 2/3, but it's not taking up the full screen. It's just like a framed up card. And then the presenter is the last third, and on the right, you see their video in portrait mode with their video feed as it is. But in the background is a virtual background. And that virtual background helps to frame up the content and make it, bring focus to it, sort of give it some context. So that's side-by-side mode. And then reporter mode is similar, but it is a larger view of your shared content, whether it be desktop or slides or window. And then you as a presenter, your background has been removed from your video feed and you're overlaid over the virtual background that has been chosen. And there's, I had some feedback for it that initially you got to be choosy with the kind of content you are sharing and when you would use this. Like, think about all the slides that we see, even the one that we see in the message itself, where the only text that you can read really is the title. So if you've got text-heavy stuff, you don't really want to be presenting that in that tiny little square. And again too, if you've got if you're using reporter mode, it's a little bit bigger, but it's not really the place that you want to put smaller content. It's got to be like a big inspirational picture, like a Ben Nyland presentation, or or like just big words or something like that, or even just a video that's going to play. That's reporter mode, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key. For me, it'll be how easy it is to switch between these views, because I think sometimes you'll want that, sharing a video or showing graphs, maybe a graph that's a full screen of the presentation, so you could see what the words and everything. Because I think you're right. You've got to be very careful on what you're showing and what you're presenting in this, so that it can, so that it'll work well.
I think as a method, this is how I would use it. Like, you would, if you're sharing your desktop, you're trying to do a demo, or you are doing a full presentation, you want people to be immersed in that content, you're going to be sharing full screen, or you'll be using PowerPoint Live or something like that. But when you switch over to a scene like this, where it's side by side or reporter mode, it's when you're pausing to make some comments. Think of all the late night shows and various different reporter show type things that you see. They've got it in a small inset, and they're making some comments about what is up there, so that you can, be a bit more engaged with what's been said.
Right.
Here's your view there too, Daniel, about how you would switch between those modes. That was the other thing. You as a presenter, this is what you would see: your full screen, your shared window. You see a bar along the top, which allows you to change between. It's called the sharing bar. You can change between the scenes there, but it auto hides. So you've got to hover your mouse.
Yeah.
Boop, change.
Yeah, I would like some hotkeys for that. I really would. I mean, if this is to enable some slick presentations, then we need to make it slick.
Yeah.
There's too much in Teams, I think, where people struggle and they look for, okay, where's the thing and how do I, so you see them up close and they're like moving around. How do I click this? And I got to share this. Can you see it now? Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, it needs to be slicker. Several things, but this needs to be slick, where I don't need to go, okay, I'm going to move up here and click here and click here, and then, okay, now I'm switching. I need a hotkey. I need, while I'm in Teams, if I press Alt, I don't know, V or something, there's a suggestion. Congratulate,
Yeah.
There you go. But, just something. It needs to be better.
Well, one thing that's good about this mode is
I like the views. Let me
yeah,
go ahead and say that I like the
yeah,
views. It's just, I think you're going to need to switch. What would be really great and slick is switching between one of these and not, right? Focusing on content.
mm-hmm,
When you want to focus on a video, or you want to, like you were talking about what's up there, like in reporter view,
mm-hmm,
like, hey, here's what we're talking about. I mean, maybe not point like this because that looks kind of weird,
yeah,
but if you're referring to the content, great, but then be able to switch to full content,
yep,
right? Switch it back to normal so people can focus on that content and look, read that text that you're talking about or whatever. Use this to connect to your audience
yes,
because you're showing your video. That's what you're trying to do, is connect with them, show your body language, show, that the passion that you have for this content, but,
mm,
don't make that the number one thing. Your content has to shine through as well.
yep, yeah. You got to become adept at changing between those scenes. That's for sure. There is a little
Mm-hmm.
preview there too. I'd
Right.
just say before we finish off this message, let you see what the others are saying. Sorry, the audience is seeing, but that won't be
Mm-hmm.
presented to people on the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be coming out mid-August, like everything else, and and roll out mid-September. That's for standard release in GCC. Late September, finished rollout by mid-October. We have a couple of quick mentions now, don't we, Daniel?
We definitely do. One of them is variable playback speed for Teams meeting recordings, MC271911. This is as we, talk about storing our video recordings in Stream, right? But those recordings, when we're in Teams, when we record something, it depends. It may go into OneDrive or SharePoint. Well, when we're playing back the video, it's using that stream capability in the background, right? It's powering it. But now we're going to have a choice to go from listening it to a half speed, so it would be, no, I'm just joking. To half speed to 2 times speed, so it'd be like this, and you can listen to a lot of stuff in really short amount of time. Um, so you'll be able to switch to that very quickly. So the rollout, targeted release early August. I can't believe I did that. And to early September. And then general availability, that GA will be early September through the month to late September. And then the last quick mention we have is image tags in SharePoint, MC272451. So in SharePoint, when you do upload an image, it actually automatically creates a column for you called tags. However, you can't edit that tags column. So what they're going to do is they're going to remove that, and instead they're going to add a column called image tags column. And this will be, you're able to edit those tags now. Fantastic. Really, the only downside I see with this is if you have, and it mentions it in the announcement, but is if you have used that tags column in your views before, when you're showcasing images on pages, then it's going to go away, right? They're actually removing that column, and they're not going to replace it in your views. So any view that is using the image column, then you're going to need to go and add when they replace it with the image tags column. Unfortunately, you're not going to know when this happens until it already does. Just the kind of the way things work, right, with Microsoft 365. They're working to get better at that, and more to come on that. But the rollout is expected mid-September and completed early October. So really, the only thing you need to do prepare is kind of look at those views to see if you are using the tags column anywhere in your views. So, Daryl, we do want to make a quick mention on August, the month of August, and all
August,
the things
yeah.
we're going to get.
Well, let me try and give us a different view of this. Oh bother! Thought that I had this scene set up, but let's just try main monitor. No, that one. There we go. think that'll do it. Let's get out of our favorite view and look at all the updated messages. Now, a lot of them. Let's just jump into Teams follows Office preview. So message has been updated, and we're going to be rolling that out early August. Right, so the timeline has been changed from July to August. What else? SharePoint site templates. Standard release late August. August is going to be a big month, as you said, Daniel. Yeah. So
it is. A lot of those updated announcements are basically pushing the timeline, and that really is why you need to be paying attention to the message center. And if you sync to Planner or you sync to Teams or SharePoint, those are kind of the three that I know people are doing a lot of. Make sure that you're going back and following up. This is kind of that thing, change management, right? They've announced it, you're going to get it in July. You've told everybody it's coming. Well, now it's slipped to the end of August. That's hypothetical. I'm just saying, okay, now what do you do? It's slipped, half a month or a whole month. What do you do now? So just keep track of this, making sure that in your change management process, you account for slipping. But August is definitely going to be a big month.
Yeah, and what I've demonstrated on the screen too, when you're in the message center, you can change the message state to updated, and that just brings all the updated messages most of the time. I have seen it do other behaviors sometimes. But yeah, good to keep people up to date. So, Daniel, that is about it. We didn't have a callback really, so it's not to say that nothing's arrived and turned on, but we just didn't get around to.
That was kind of our callback. All these things are coming to August, coming in August. Hey, if you are in Chicago and you're at SP Fest or Teams Fest, come see me. I have stickers for the show with me, so I'd love to give you some stickers. But if you're not here, I'm sorry. Find me somewhere else and I'll give you some stickers. But make sure you smash that like button down there, the thumbs up, and hit the subscribe and
what do you do with the bell?
The bell. Flick it this time.
Flick it this time, not ring-a-ling-a-ding-it. No. Okay.
Right. We're going to flick it. Make sure you follow us on socials at 365MCS.
All right. Well, see you again, everyone. It's pouring down with rain here. So let's go out with that noise and the outro song.
Bye.